Arsenal have signed Martin Zubimendi for a deal close to £60 million on a 5-year contract. And in this video, we'll break down if it's a good transfer for Mikel Arteta. And of course, where this leaves Arsenal's squad with some other juicy transfer rumours coming through as well, including Victor Gyokeres from the main man himself, Fabrizio Romano. Leave your comments down below. Initial impressions, initial thoughts on Martin Zubimendi being the latest big transfer to Arsenal. My overview of this deal has to be that it is a really, really strong transfer. It finally looks like a transfer where Arsenal are moving the needle and improving on the squad, because ultimately Norgaard's come in, Kepa's come in, Nodi Madueke looked like potentially he could be coming in the next couple of weeks as well. These transfers are frustrating to Arsenal fans for obvious reasons, because they don't move the needle. They don't take Arsenal anywhere near closer to Liverpool. But when you take those transfers in the context of other additions that can still come in by the end of the summer transfer window, then actually it could be a really robust and widespread transfer activity from Arsenal if they can bring in a number 9, if they can bring in firepower on the flanks, and of course the midfielder that I think Arsenal have been needing for a good couple of years. Because let's be completely real, Jorginho came again, another kind of Chelsea reject a little bit. His best years were at Chelsea, obviously winning the Champions League. He came in, he was decent, and I don't think Zubimendi is necessarily as good as Jorginho on the ball, but off the ball he's absolutely fantastic. He's got great athleticism, he's very sensible with how he retains possession, and he's obviously given Arsenal a platform in midfield that they desperately need. You felt, particularly in the big games, maybe against Liverpool in the Premier League, maybe against PSG in the Champions League, that the midfield at points wasn't quite high energy enough, wasn't getting enough out of the likes of Martin Odegaard. Declan Rice, I thought, had a fantastic season last season. Can you get more out of him? Can you get more goals out of him? And that comes down to who's playing behind him. Obviously, different midfield options behind those two that I've just mentioned in terms of Odegaard and Declan Rice. But Zubimendi, at his age as well, mid-20s, Arsenal getting the best out of him with his athleticism. You need these midfielders not to be in their 30s at the back end of their careers. You need fresh legs in midfield, because let's be real, that position is very, very difficult. Defensive midfielders in the Premier League, you can go from one season being one of the best in the world. I look at someone like Fabinho, for example. You can be one of the best defensive midfielders in the world, and next season you can fall off a cliff real quick and your level can drop. So in that position, when you can strengthen, you have to do it quick, and you have to get players that are ready to go. The defensive midfielder position, I think, is arguably the most important in modern football. It's all relative. Obviously, you want goals, you want a good goalkeeper, but the defensive midfielder position, look at Man City without Rodri. You need that kind of base to build from. You need a quality midfielder that can win the ball back high and obviously have a high press. And Martin Zubimendi in a high press will be absolutely fantastic. He's got great work ethic, and when he wins the ball back, he gives it simple. His passing accuracy is absolutely outstanding, and he's going to give Arsenal so many more opportunities to win the ball high, win the ball early, and give it to Martin Odegaard. I hate the phrase of unlocking Martin Odegaard. We used to say it a lot about Paul Pogba, needing someone behind him to unlock Paul Pogba. But maybe with Martin Odegaard, having someone like Zubimendi, who's a regular starter in that position that can play 30, 40, 50 games at a high level without breaking down, without there needing to be rotation, that maybe Martin Odegaard's numbers can go up. He can play a little bit higher. He can have someone potentially ahead of him like a Victor Gyokeres, we'll talk about that in a minute, that can feed off of Martin Odegaard, being closer to the box, scoring goals from outside the box, linking up play, not having to drop so deep. At points last season, Martin Odegaard was dropping deep. It's not his natural game, and I thought he was flat in big games. If Arsenal are going to win anything major next season, they need Martin Odegaard to be putting in David Silva kind of performances. I don't say it's lightly, because David Silva is a very similar player to Martin Odegaard in a number of ways. Silky kind of playmaker, wonder of a left foot. But he had someone like Fernandinho behind him. He had someone like Rodri at points behind him. Even Nigel de Jong, Gareth Barry. And with Zubimendi, he fits that mould massively. And it could be the brand new chapter for Martin Odegaard. I think that's where it's the most interesting, because Zubimendi, he scored, 10 plus goals for Sociedad in his career. You're not going to get 20 goals from midfield from Zubimendi, of course not. But I think you're going to get numbers. He's going to improve the numbers of other midfielders around him. And then you've got Declan Rice, because I actually think in certain big games, if you wanted to rotate with Declan Rice and Odegaard, you could see a little bit more rotation. You could have a double pivot with Norgard and Zubimendi in massive matches. You really could, and Arsenal could pack the midfield. Think about Gravenberch and McAllister, who are both forward-thinking midfielders, but as a platform together, they create a lot of stability in the midfield for Liverpool. Maybe it's a Norgard and Zubimendi midfield in big matches, particularly away from home as well. And then you have Rice as a floater. Then you have Martin Odegaard as a floater with a little bit more control. That could be an interesting prospect for Arsenal, no doubt about it. I think Zubimendi can play by himself, by the way. And you could even see Skelly link up with him in midfield as well. And suddenly that midfield looks a lot more powerful, a lot more robust, a lot more mobile. I think that the Arsenal midfield last season did look a little bit flat off the ball. Odegaard's never going to put a big challenge in. Declan Rice, yes, he's robust, he's dynamic, but he's just one man at points. And it did feel like Declan Rice was doing a lot, spreading himself very, very thin in that Arsenal midfield at points. Because Declan Rice is a certain player that you can give that kind of responsibility to. But Zubimendi, if you've got Zubimendi behind you, Declan Rice, a bit like what I've just said about Martin Odegaard, he's going to get more goals, he's going to be higher up, he can arrive in the box, score headers in the box, little flick-ons, because Zubimendi's behind him, because the possession is creeping up. I think Arsenal are going to have a lot more possession in big games this season, and that usually spells, more crosses into the box, more opportunities to finish. I think Declan Rice will have those. Declan Rice's game has got goals in it. Look at the 2 free kicks against Real Madrid. He can be doing a lot more with the ball at his feet in terms of actually scoring goals. He could be a very high scoring midfielder if he wanted to be, Declan Rice. And again, I think it's down to Martin Zubimendi being that kind of catalyst where you can push forward. All the great sides in the last 5 to 10 years with basically no exceptions. Casemiro at Real Madrid, Rodri at Man City. It goes on and on. Fabinho at Liverpool. They've all created a platform for success. However that looks in the front three, whether it's 3 exciting dynamic wingers in terms of Sadio Mane and Firmino and Salah, or more of a powerhouse midfielder and a striker in Erling Haaland down the middle. However you look at it, however you set up going forward with Saka on one side, whether it's Martinelli or Madueke on the other, doesn't really matter. As long as you've got that core, you can be a bit more creative and change things up a little bit. And then we've got to lead into what it looks like moving forward, because if Zubimendi comes in with those kind of 3 players that kind of bolster the squad, and then you've got someone like Victor Gyokeres, who today, as I'm recording this video, Fabrizio Romano said that there's a deal being talked about between both clubs, certain terms being met. If Gyokeres was to come in, Zubimendi coming in, that is the kind of moves that could really catapult Arsenal above Liverpool, Man City next season. Seriously, if both of them hit the ground running, then Arsenal could be a changed side, because they've got goals and far more power and legs in midfield. These are the facts. It's a very, very scary time if you're a rival to Arsenal, if Zubimendi is joined by a major striker like Gyokeres. If someone like Rodrigo comes in and complements the side as well as Madueke, and Arsenal are breathing in that squad. They've got multiple quality options, and not just players like Raheem Sterling last season that didn't work out, or an over-reliance on someone like Trossard. They need more depth in the attacking options, and Zubimendi, you could argue the midfield solution's over now for Arsenal. They've got their business done. Norgard and Zubimendi have come in. Skelly can obviously fill in midfield as well, and then you've got a lot of quality in that position. Is it a good transfer? Leave your comments down below. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you very, very soon.